Thank you, Kevin, and I look forward to hearing more from that.
All right, Leilani. This one or that one? All right, okay. All right, next up, Leilani Dawson from the University of Hawaii is going to present Rejecting My Rabbit Nature, Letting Go of the Sprint and Learning to Manage ASpace on 2 hours per week. I think you're all probably really excited to learn about that. Since its initial migration to ArchivesSpace in 2015, the University of Hawaii at Mānoa Library has upgraded its instance twice. Both of those upgrades were designed as intensive summer projects, wherein the de-facto ArchivesSpace admin, Leilani, worked with one of the library's IT staffers to research and explore the new version, migrate the production instance, and then introduce it to other staff users. This upgrade model has proven increasingly unsustainable as it relied on, Leilani wrote this, my increasingly inadequate tech skills, I didn't say that, didn't provide enough time for either testing beforehand or for documentation after the fact, and required dropping nearly all of my other work to focus on the upgrade. A sabbatical this year with a couple of long overdue upgrades to our ASpace instance as its focus has provided the opportunity to rethink how I maintain it. This presentation will explore the expected benefits of moving to a more leisurely pace, including both how and why I plan to formalize our average upgrade cadence and spread out what had been 12 weeks of fever development across the entire duration. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, everyone. I'm Leilani Dawson. I'm the Manuscript Collections Archivist at University of Hawaii at Mānoa's Hamilton Library. A few months into my position, a couple things happened. Most pertinent to this presentation, I also became the de facto systems archivist for our ArchivesSpace installation, which means I'm the one in charge of managing our repository and all of our users and frontline tech support and making all of the local changes that we decide we want. That's all on me, all of that work. And as the title of my presentation indicates, I'm here to tell you today why I've decided to do all of that work on 2 hours a week. So from former archivists at Hamilton, I got the impression that we migrated to ArchivesSpace sometime around 2015. I came on board in March of 2017, and one of my first projects that summer was to do an ArchivesSpace upgrade. There's an email from my IT guy from that summer saying that there's a set of records that didn't migrate properly last time, quote unquote. But I didn't think to ever ask him, like, whether he was talking about the initial migration from Archivist Toolkit or from some mysterious intervening ArchivesSpace upgrade that I just never knew about, because that email is the only documentation I have of ArchivesSpace before I got on board. I can't say that like I did any better, because I didn't keep any documentation of the 2017 upgrade other than those emails back and forth with him. And the next year in 2018, when I did a second upgrade, I was like, I should maybe keep some of the files that I changed. And so I kept a couple of them, not all of them, not systematically. Yeah, it wasn't good. And finally, on the list of not good things, I want to point out that discrepancy between the date of that last bullet and the full range of dates in that title of this slide. Yeah. It became pretty obvious pretty quickly that things weren't working, that it was really unsustainable. Like every spring between 2019 and 2022, I told myself I'd do an upgrade. I told everyone at the library I'd do an upgrade that summer, and I never did. So I should note here that we're on an area studies model at UHM, which means that the 4 archivists and like 3 or 4 librarians who have archival collections who aren't archivists, we are each of us in charge of everything related to our archival collections, starting with donor relations and acquisitions, but also including processing, instruction, outreach, reference, exhibits, like the whole 9 yards. If it's our collection, we're the one who does it, or our students. But there's no like cross-functional technical staff, or that's not how we work. So as I became more and more acquainted with my own collections, all of a sudden I started getting things like donor letters or researcher questions or instruction requests that couldn't just be dropped for 2 or 3 months of the year while I went away to work on ArchivesSpace. And for that matter, dropping ArchivesSpace for the other 9 or 10 months of the year wasn't doing me any favors either, because I found like in that second summer, 2018, like the real pain of learning loss. As I struggled to like really had to like look up and remember, okay, how do I turn off ArchivesSpace? How do I restart it? When do I need to turn it off and restart it? How do I even log into the ArchivesSpace test server with SSH? Like these really fundamental things that I had to relearn, which I really shouldn't have spent any time on. I shouldn't have needed to, but like before I could even get into the upgrade part of things, I had to do all of that and lost a lot of time like trying to, okay, so what's this command look? Yeah. Then as time progressed, as things, this like backlog of technical debt just kept on growing, ArchivesSpace itself is growing more and more complicated, right? And so my previous practice, which had been like just copying, pasting all of y'all's plugins and config file changes and code, and just putting it wherever I thought it might work in ArchivesSpace directory, that wasn't working anymore either, because like I couldn't always read that code, which meant I couldn't troubleshoot when things went wrong, and things were always going wrong. Yeah, I had enough. So like 2022, the fall, I was like, oh, I have a first sabbatical. I'm a faculty librarian. That means I get sabbaticals. I'm going to spend my first sabbatical working on ArchivesSpace. And so I did, and I'm like, actually that year's almost up right now. But I spent the first couple of months just reading and upskilling, like really diving deep into W3 schools on CSS and Code Academy and the Rails guides, because I knew nothing about Ruby or Rails before I started this sabbatical. And then I also spent a lot of time watching like every single ArchivesSpace video from 2021 onwards that I could find. Like just hours and hours watching training recordings, past presentations from forums, you name it. Then this spring, April to June, I did a couple of test runs of various upgrades. So 2.5.1, which is what we had been on for a long time, to 2.7.1 to get that language record change under my belt, because I knew it was going to be problematic. We have things in lots of different languages in University of Hawai. And then in June and July, my IT guy and I redid all of those upgrades, which in addition to that one I just mentioned, also included from 2.7.1 to 3.4.1, which is where we landed. And also, I decided to refactor all of the local changes I made. So instead of having them like living everywhere in the core code, I just made one local plugin, which I should have done from the beginning, but just ignored all of the warnings that said don't do this. And because I couldn't get it to work without actually making the changes directly in the core code. So yeah, that's all one nice little pretty plugin now. And then like I was saying, in July, we did all of that on our production server, and then invited our archives subcommittee, which is like the 7 of us who do archives, to test drive the results and come up with a list of everything that they could find that didn't seem to be working or that could be better or just looked different and they didn't like it. So that's my punch list of things to work on next year. In the meantime though, for this month and next month, I am writing documentation for the very first time. Yeah, so like things that feel like really basic parts of like, being a developer, but that to me feel like luxuries because I've never had them before, like a change log, right? Or a development roadmap, or a staff user guide that actually talks about like more than just local practice, but why we're doing things that are different from best practices, and sort of goes into like, okay, these are the like guardrails that you need to be aware of if you're going to go beyond them. Because, yeah, we just didn't have any of that before. So what I think, like, this is all proof of concept, but what I think I'm going to try to do is go work on ArchivesSpace year-round. Novel, right? Which should lessen my need to drop all of my other work to rush on instead of going on a summer sprint and do nothing but ArchivesSpace. Hopefully working on it year-round means that I won't have to drop everything else. Hopefully it also means that I won't forget ArchivesSpace in the intervening 10 months, right? So I shouldn't have to scramble to remember what I've done in the past and lose time that way. I'm allocating 5% of my time to this work, which is where that 2 hours per week number comes. 5% of 40 hours per week comes to 2 hours per week. Which over the course of an entire year should come to around the same amount of time total as I'd spent on that 10-week or 12-week intensive sprint in 2017 and 2018. Next, and this is also key, I am giving up the idea that I can do a complete full-blown upgrade every single year. Instead, I'm parceling that work out over the course of 2 or 3 years. And so the first year of a cycle, which is like this year, I'm just upgrading ArchivesSpace, nothing else. And then the second year would be addressing all of the known issues and doing those fixes, and maybe even adding new functionality with plugins or Solar config changes or whatever else we can think of to just make that existing version a little bit better. And then the third year, which might not happen every cycle, but is definitely happening this cycle, is a deep dive into cleaning up our data because it's really messy. It's really, really messy in there. Or maybe next cycle I'll do a deep dive into upgrading and maintaining our documentation. I'm putting all this effort into writing it. I should keep it up to date, right? So that's what I'm hoping will happen. I'm also leaning really heavily on this sort of externalized memory that I'm creating as I build it, and also on new tools, because I don't think I could have made these changes or even thought about making these changes if I didn't have the freedom afforded to me by switching from Nano to VS Code. It's such a night and day change. It makes things so much easier, VS Code, that it gives me hours per development cycle extra instead of having to fight with Nano to just get more things done. I also really want to take time to celebrate these 2 ArchivesSpace forum presentations from 2022. Now what I'm doing, what I decided to do, has no relation to any of the recommendations that Valerie or Josh or Rachel put forth in their presentations. But if I hadn't watched them, I would still be laboring under this impression that I could only upgrade ArchivesSpace when I had this long, uninterrupted stretch of time to work on it, which functionally would mean only when I had another sabbatical. That's not the future I want to live in, because that would mean that I'd have to devote all of my future sabbaticals to working on ArchivesSpace. So I'm very grateful. Because it really just opened up this new way of working. Well, I mean, it's not new, it's just continuously working on ArchivesSpace instead of dropping everything like I've been doing. So my hope is that by this time next year, I'll have finished the second year of my first 3-year cycle and have addressed all of the problems that we've identified with our current, most recent upgrade that we just finished. And that the year after that, I'll have cleaned up at least a little bit of our data and made a few tweaks to keep links up to date on our documentation. And that at the end of this first 3-year cycle, I'll be as smug as Cecil the turtle, having beaten that rushing rabbit trying to sprint his way to the finish line. So thank you. Again, Leilani Dawson.
Thank you.